Quick disclaimer before this video starts. The microphone wasn't working. The audio is going to sound a little weird. Now, I really love my quality in my videos. This video might sound a little off. I apologize. Stay tuned for the rest of this video. What's good with y'all, man? We finally here. We're on the last preseason game before the regular season kicks off. And once again, man, the one thing I want is for the football season not to blow by. I've been waiting for the football season all offseason. This offseason felt like the longest offseason ever. And guess what? Now we're at the last preseason game. So this is the last time that certain players are going to be on this roster, unfortunately. Cut day is approaching us. So we're here to talk about certain players that we're looking forward to in this preseason game. And we're going to see who's actually going to make this roster or not. I have a separate video covering who's going to actually get on this roster and who we're unfortunately not going to see. And we'll see what happens after that with the practice squad as well. But let's dive straight into what we're expecting for this game, right? So third preseason game. We're taking on the Jets after we had 2 joint practices with them. And it really felt like just one. We had that one joint practice that, I didn't even really talk about it, but that whole practice that everyone was throwing videos on Twitter and the Giants got ran out of town. They got ran out of practice. You got Sauce Gardner over here waving the Giants off the field. But in reality, it wasn't as bad as people are making it seem. Now, also, Daniel Jones was throwing, not all the long balls. He was, checking it down and throwing 7-yard routes and stuff like that. And people were complaining and saying that Daniel Jones is cooked. But Darius Slayton made a really good point. And this is the only thing I'll be touching on with this joint practice before we talk about this preseason matchup. Darius Slayton made a really good point where he was saying pretty much, if Daniel Jones is out here throwing the ball downfield and double covered and it gets picked off, people are going to say, what is Daniel Jones doing? When Daniel Jones sees that the long ball is covered and he throws it short, people are going to complain Daniel Jones is not throwing deep passes. So you can really never win. That's what Darius Slayton was saying himself. And now Darius Slayton is known for protecting DJ and really being an advocate for DJ. But he's keeping it real. That is the truth. Like, if we saw Daniel Jones throwing it into double coverage, 40 yards down the field and it gets picked off, we're bad. Like, we're annoyed. Daniel Jones checks it down to an open receiver to continue to try to, move those chains. All of a sudden, Daniel Jones is a check down merchant. He can't do anything. We really can't win right now, and Daniel Jones can't win right now. But it is what it is. I'm not saying that Daniel Jones is perfect. I'm just saying the truth right now. Every single training camp practice, every single throw is really being looked at with Daniel Jones. And if anything looks a little bit off or we don't like it, we're throwing it on social media and we're really seeing how it is. So, I'm part of the people that are on the media. I'm a content creator. So, yes, I do talk about Daniel Jones. And one of my last videos, I wasn't too highly on Daniel Jones. But I'm not going to sit here and critique every single throw that we see in training camp. Because all in all, according to certain people that were out there at that practice, the Giants offense didn't look that bad. They just had some drops, and drops that aren't on DJ. You had Theo Johnson dropping the ball. You had Malik Neighbors dropping the ball. So, not really on DJ. But also, what we're here to talk about as well is that, they didn't really throw out any starters yesterday in the last joint practice, so it kind of felt like just a run-through. And then Robert Saleh already said that his starters are not going to be playing in this last preseason game. I wouldn't expect the Giants to throw out their starters. And before everyone erupts and, all in all are going to be really upset that the starters aren't going out there, because trust me, I want our starters to go out there too. How good would you feel if the starters went out there against their second stringers and perform well? How good would you feel? Because I've seen people critiquing Daniel Jones with doing certain things with the backups from the Texans in. And, once again, if you throw the starters out there and they look good against second stringers, how do you feel going into the season? Do you want to see that, or would you not want to? That's kind of where we're sitting at right now. So that's my last little tidbit on that. But all in all, man, who are we looking forward to in this last preseason game? I think all eyes have to be on these 3 different position groups overall. It's going to be the wide receiver position. Who's going to be the last couple wide receivers to make this roster? You got guys like Bryce Ford Wheaton, Allen Robinson, Isaiah McKenzie, Gunnar Olszewski. I think Gunnar Olszewski lost his job. Now, Gunnar Olszewski did give a punt return or a kick return for a touchdown last year. We haven't seen that in a while because we honestly haven't had a good special teams unit in a very long time either. So, Gunnar Olszewski, I thought he was going to make this roster, but he's been banged up. Isaiah McKenzie knows the system. Isaiah McKenzie has worked with Brian Daboll, and I think he has a lot more upside on offense than Gunnar Olszewski. We probably won't see Isaiah McKenzie consistently, but if everything, wavered and he had to be on the field, I trust Isaiah McKenzie at the receiver position over Gunnar Olszewski, but we'll see what happens with that. You got guys like Bryce Ford Wheaton and Allen Robinson. Bryce Ford Wheaton, he was a training camp, guy that we really wanted to see make this team last year. He tore his ACL, unfortunately. He's rehabbing. He's coming back. And we haven't really heard too much of him when it came to this preseason. And I think it's because we drafted a wide receiver, we added a wide receiver. So when you look at it, the top four is going to be Darius Slayton, Malik Neighbors, in no particular order, because Malik Neighbors number one. We got Wan'Dale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt. Outside of that, you'll see Isaiah McKenzie as a fifth. We can maybe bring on another wide receiver as a sixth. Is that going to be Isaiah Hodgins? Is that going to be Bryce Ford Wheaton? Is that going to be Allen Robinson? That's what we got to keep our eyes peeled for. Isaiah Hodgins has done it before, but will they bring him back for the third year in a row? That remains to be unseen, so we'll see what happens with that. When you look at it, Elijah Chapman. Now, this guy was getting starting reps. Does that mean he's going to get no reps in his last preseason game? No. The jury's still out on his Elijah Chapman. Let's see what he does at that D tackle position. You also got DJ Davison battling for a spot. They already released Ryder Anderson, so the D tackle is looking thin. It's looking thin, so we'll see what these guys do with their reps coming this Saturday. Also, other position group we wanted to talk about is the running back group overall, man. As you know, starters are not playing. I wonder if they're going to throw Tyrone Tracy out there. I hope we get to see him a little bit more. But they kind of look at him as a priority and potentially another starter. So you might not see Tyrone Tracy out there, so it's going to be another big day for Dante Miller and Eric Gray. Dante Miller, you're trying to make this team. You really got to make your presence felt in this game, and not only for the Giants' sake, but for your sake. If you want to be on an NFL roster, you really got to go out and perform well. Hopefully the blocking performs well, but overall, once again, he didn't get any snaps in his last preseason game in preseason game number 2. So it's going to be important for him to get some snaps in and try to see what he can do for this Giants roster, but also for himself as well, as a tryout for the whole league. If Dante Miller, gets seen by other players, and of course we want him on the Giants, but if he gets seen by other teams and they want to bring him on, kudos to him, man, because I don't know if the Giants want to bring 4 running backs. I'm not too sure. I want to keep Dante Miller, but they might try to stash him and keep him on the practice squad, and, at the end of the day, all kudos to him. We'll see how Dante Miller does. Eric Gray, you're potentially you were gonna be this RB2 when Tyrone Tracy went down. Tyrone Tracy's back. It seems like he's getting his respect back as well. Eric Gray, you got to go ball out for this game as well. When you look at it, we're going to see a lot of Tommy DeVito. You're not going to really see too much of a Drew Lock. I think I saw reports that he's going to be the emergency QB again. Man, as a QB2, I just hope we do not see either of them. But, once again, hopefully you see sustaining drives out of these guys. Tommy DeVito won a couple games in the NFL last year as a regular season as a starting QB. Hopefully we don't get to see that or don't have to see that. But as we know, they should be moving the ball on these guys. That's what they should be doing. So I hope to see that. And once again, man, I will point out the obvious as well. We've gone up against the Texans, we've gone up against the Lions, and we've gone up against the Jets. This training camp, these joint practices, and the preseason games. These are top teams in the league. They're better than the Giants. The Giants right now is looked at as one of the worst rosters. So when you look at it, how they're going to perform in these preseason games, how they've been performing in these joint practices, it's definitely been helping them, helping build their character, as well as kind of seeing where we're at. We're not too far away. When you see Aaron Rodgers on the field and he's throwing to, his guys and our DBs are getting cooked, I mean, you kind of have to tip your cap to him, because our young DBs are not going to stand up to Aaron Rodgers. We want them to, but we don't have a CB2 right now. So I say all this to say, no matter what happens in this preseason game, no matter what happens these next 2 weeks before the season opener, the Giants are still a young rebuilding team, and hopefully they continue to perform. They're a young rebuilding team with a year 6 quarterback, so it's a really interesting matchup. You really want to see this team, take leaps and bounds. So we'll see what happens ahead of week 1. But that's going to be enough for this wrap up for the last preseason game. I'll be recapping what happened, and we'll also be having another video looming on who makes this actual roster. You guys let me know how you feel down below in the comments, man, about this Giants team overall. Let me know how you feel about the preseason game heading up, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.